Hello, thank you for joining us. Today, this is a training workshop, so a very active one as well, we hope. We hope to hear from you. And it is entitled From Planning to Publicizing, Tips for Writing a Blog and Sharing on Social Media. My name is Sofia Cavallari, and I'm a joint PhD candidate at Chulalongkorn University, and I will be co-moderating today's session with Boripat.
Yep. Thanks, Sophia. Hi, I'm Barikat. I'm a research coordinator at the Unit for Social Environmental Research at Chiang Mai University. Both Sophia and I are members of the Summernet Youth Network team. And today's event is in collaboration with the Summernet communication team.
Great. So just to give the welcoming remarks, I would like to invite Dr. Sangam Shretka. He is a professor in water engineering and management, and also at the department head of the Department of Civil and Infrastructure Engineering at AIT, Asian Institute of Technology.
Yeah, thank you, Sophia. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Summernet Youth Network, I would like to welcome all of you to this very important event entitled From Planning to Publicizing, Tips for Writing a Blog and Sharing on Social Media. As explained by Sophia, this event is jointly organized by Summernet Youth Network in collaboration with Summernet's communication team. Probably some of you might not know about the Summernet. So I take this opportunity to introduce Summernet also. Actually, Summernet is abbreviation of Sustainable Mekong Research Network. And it's a very important initiative for research and policy engagement, bringing together research partners from several countries within the Mekong region. And they are Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And Summernet has almost 17 years of history. So it's a long, history created by the support from the government of Sweden through the program called Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. And Summernet supports policy-relevant research and outreach activities to inform and engage decision makers, planners, and also the stakeholders. A key component of Summernet's work is to bridge science and policy. And this is very important event. And actually, Summernet organizes this kind of events for several years. I'm actually a scientist, and I have been talking to Rajesh before this, and also the team from Summernet Youth Network, that I also have to learn how to communicate with the policymakers. We work very hard, right? So we conduct research, be it water related or environmental related research. But whatever hard work we do, it will be limited to our academic circle if our results do not catch the attention of the policymakers. I mean, the policymaker are those people who makes the laws and regulations. They prepare the budgets, and also they govern the communities, right? So until and unless we try to get their attention and try to request them to integrate our results into the policy, probably our work will not be recognized, right? So it's very, very important to understand or to learn how to communicate with the policymakers, right? So this training will be very, very useful to all of you because you are all, young professionals working in the academia, research, and other development communities. As you have noticed in the announcement that this training will be provided by a very well experienced team. from Summernet. Rajesh is there. He's a coordinator in the communications department of the Summernet. Varia Plongwatana is there. She is also assistant to Summernet Secretariat, and also Ongkham U, he's a Summernet fellow. They are very, very well-experienced team. And also this event will be moderated by very well-experienced researcher, Sofia Cavalieri. She is the research associate in Stockholm Environment Institute, SCI Asia, and Boripat level from Unit for Social and Environmental Research in Chiang Mai University. Actually, I have had also several opportunities to interact with them because I have been conducting projects awarded by the Summernet and attending several meetings. So I had a very good opportunity to interact with them. So I'm very impressed from the participants' profile. You are young researchers, and more importantly, more than 65% of the participants are female. Yeah. So this training would provide very important opportunity for you to learn how to communicate with the policymaker. So I wish you all the best, and I hope this training will be benefited for all of you in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sangam, for your opening remarks. So for our first training today, I would like to welcome Rajesh Daniel. He's the communications coordinator with the Summernet Secretariat. He's a writer, researcher, and filmmaker with more than 15 years of experience working on issues of natural resources governance in Southeast Asia and also the Mekong region. Today, he'll be presenting about how to draft and produce a blog for the Summernet website. Please go ahead, Rajesh. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Boripat, and thanks so much, Dr. Sangam, for those opening remarks. It sets the tone because our idea of the webinar is to reach out to policymakers, to a non-academic audience, and as you rightly pointed out, we cannot, especially as the world enters even more environmental issues and problems, we cannot restrict ourselves to our academic circles. So with that, I also thank the Summernet Youth Network for getting this thing going. You've always been very active. So with that, can I ask for the PowerPoint, please, and then I can start my presentation.
Yes, just a moment, Richard.
So while that is coming on, I want to say that this presentation of mine will be followed by two other people about how to share it. So mine will focus on how to write the blog. However, okay, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So as I said, so I will focus on writing the blog, and the main objective is to show how we as a team are planning, drafting the piece, and producing the article, which is the blog in the Summernet website. So this is mainly for the Summernet website. We are not going beyond it to newspapers and so on. That would be another webinar. And in that respect, we will show you how in the Summernet website we have different ways to do it. And then, of course, as I said, two colleagues will help to show you how we can share it, because without sharing it, people will not know that the blog was published or that you wrote this article. The one almost like a disclaimer we should say is because of COVID, we were not able to do actual physical writing workshops. In a normal setting, we would have done a couple of writing workshops where we actually have 2 days in a setting, maybe in a nice hotel, and we would have had teams. We would have asked you to write things, we would have corrected it and actually improved the writing. Unfortunately, we could not do that because of COVID. We may do it this year. So this is for now an online workshop, which is not a writing workshop, but we hope you can still benefit because we will try and give you guidance. We'll give you tips. We will show you how you can write short pieces. And we will show you some examples as well, so that you can go back to the Summernet website and look at them and see, okay, this is how this was done. And this is how you could do it as well. Next, please. Okay. First, let us say, many people may know what a blog is, but just so that we're all, our understanding is all the same. What is a blog? You may have heard this word very frequently in the internet. It is, when people write, they say, oh, I did a blog. A blog is usually a short piece. It's about, for the Summernet websites, around 500 to 800, maybe 600 to 900. We are a little flexible, but definitely not more than 1,000 words, and not more than 2 pages, A4 pages. Usually would like to have photos, especially if you have been to a local area, we can have a couple of photos. Sometimes we also have quotes from people. It can be a research associates, it can be someone we met in the field work, it can be a policymaker. And the key elements in this blog that we are going to talk about are these. It can be a news about an event that you attended, or it can be a field trip. It can be your opinion. So what you think about something. It can be an opinion about a set, say, if you have a draft law coming up in your country and you can have an opinion about it. If you have a policy issue, you can have an opinion about it. If you even have a project that is being funded, that has just been released, you can say, this is the project, this is my opinion about it. The third element is a Q&A. You can do it as a Q&A also. You can identify a person, maybe a resource person, and say, I want to do a Q&A with you on a certain topic. And you can also do a photo story. Photo story means you have a lot of photos which you have taken and you just have captions. And rather than a lot of text, you may have photos. Next slide, please. So, but before we begin, and as I said, I showed you the elements of what a blog can be about. But before you start thinking, how do I write a blog? This is how you begin. And this is our advice for the website. What is the main point you want to make? That's important when you start to write a blog. The topic, and then you have something you want to say. So that is what you begin with. You ask yourself, what do I want to say about this? Supposing there is a flood in your province. The news has reported it, but you may have something about it. And that comes to my second point. Use your own expertise or experience that you think will make this piece interesting. You see, because otherwise it just becomes another news article. A blog is also something personal. You can put yourself into it. You can say, I was visiting, to use the flooded district example, I used to do field work in this village. Now it's flooded. Now this is happening. This much was damaged. The community had some safeguards, something like that. That is your saying from your personal experience, your personal viewpoint. And the third thing, which is really, really important, which many people forget because they think when we write for everyone, is to focus on a particular audience, or at least think what are the target groups that you write for. The audience will again define how you think about what you're writing and what you will actually write in the piece. If you're writing for academia and researchers, it may be a little more scientific. If you're writing for a media, you may want to highlight something that the media can follow up. If writing for NGOs, maybe or funders, there may be some call for action. Maybe you're asking for some support or solidarity. So all of that will matter when you start writing. Think of the audience. You may think, oh, the blog is going to be widely read by everyone, which is true. It may be. But when you start to write, it is better to think of a target audience or two, primary and secondary. When we write, we always think, okay, how is this going to help and who is this going to help? Some of our writing, we think our target will be the Summernet partners, so it's a smaller audience. Sometimes we think, okay, the donors like SIDA would be interested, World Bank may be interested. So it's very important to think of an audience. Next slide, please. Okay. So I assume so far we are all right. Just giving you an overview of the kinds of blogs and how to plan the blogs. If you have any questions, you can feel free to raise them, or I can finish and then we can ask questions. Since it's a little informal, I don't mind either way. Feel free, if there's anything that you want to clarify or you have a question, feel free to interrupt and ask through Boripat. So let's go now. As I said, in this webinar, we are able to give you guidance and tips. And one of the ways we thought was to give you through examples from the website itself, so that you know what are the kinds of blogs that we have done. One, for example, first example, news or event blog. Now, this is the most frequent and also maybe the most the easier of the others to write. Now, even within a news or event blog, there can be a few types. For example, you can look at that first one, joint inception workshop. Now, if you have a webinar in your group or research project or your university, it's a very simple thing to write what the webinar is about. So that is how Omkam has written. A joint inception workshop will be held on this date. It will look at this topic. It will have these speakers. These speakers will elaborate on these things. So you provide a bit of basic information. A second one, little more complex, but again, giving information, is a work at a forum or conference. So you can figure out, you're going to a forum, you're sitting there for a couple of days, or it's an online, you're taking some notes, you have some interesting things you heard from there, you think about it, and then you can write. Two examples are here: how to apply a gender lens in water research, which came out of a webinar about gender and water, and the other one by Boripat about hand washing and mask wearing. So these are about how, these are both also in a sense reflection on research. So you can combine the two. You can have a forum, and then you can also say, okay, this is what I think was important from that webinar I got. Then the last one is an opinion. It can be an opinion on research, it can be an opinion on an event. The last one is, for example, the dams and droughts, data and diplomacy in the Mekong. This one gives an opinion, but it's based on a forum, which we did. We had a research and policy forum where we talked of Mekong cooperation, transboundary governance. We also talked about information sharing, so that was the data. We also talked of what is the problems with dams and droughts, because dams were controversial in this part of the world. And so we have a small blog, but it's an opinion. It wasn't just reporting on the forum or reporting on people. If you go and look at it, it gives you an opinion based on what the forum people were talking about. So this is a little more complex, but as you get better and better, you will get better at writing these kind of opinions as well. Next slide. The second kind, apart from news and reporting, is Q&A. Q&A is easier to do, but ideally you would have a script, which means a list of questions you want to ask. Q&A, you cannot go unprepared. For example, we interviewed the MRC's Chief Strategy Officer. Of course, at that time, he was the Chief Strategy Officer. And we had a list of questions. Usually the people also will ask you, when you ask for an interview, they'll say, can you send me the question so I can prepare beforehand? You might have to give them a topic and say, sir or madam, we'd like to ask you about your work with this cooperation in the Mekong. The second example, for example, was with Dr. Chayanis. She talked about Summernet program in general. So again, we told her this is the theme, these are the questions we have. And then she answered the questions. And of course, when you have the questions answered, you can also have follow-up. And then you write it all down, and then we can help you edit it and put it together as a blog. So second part is a Q&A. Now this is easier to do, but as I said, please prepare yourself with a theme and questions before you go, and identify the person you want to have a Q&A with, you want to interview. And sometimes, as you're all researchers, you may already be interviewing people in the field or as part of your work. You may be interviewing a line agency person or state official, an NGO, all of them as part of your work. You can make a separate request and say, what you said that day was very interesting. Can I follow up with you and set aside 30 minutes for an interview, for a blog I'm writing for the Summernet website. And then most people will say yes, and then send them the questions, and then you have a blog. Next slide, please. Third one is, and this may be useful for those of you who are in research institutions. You may have a project or program or findings. You may want to promote things or a tool or even a call for applications. Maybe your project is looking for people to do a proposal or write a proposal together. It can also be a blog with some details of the project, some details of what you're looking for. In this one, for example, we have a water monitoring system. It's a tool for drought management, which SEI has done, and it was useful for our Summernet audience. So we wrote a small blog with details of that tool. The second example, we had grants for journalists. And so again, we told the journalists, this was meant for the audience of journalists. We told them what kind of grant it is, who would be benefiting, what we are looking for from the journalists, how much money they would get, some of those details, and how we can work together to support them. So that can also be a blog. So if you're all in, if any of you are in an institution and you have things that you need to promote, please send us a blog. Say, Varia or oh, this is what we would like to promote from our work, and then we can make it into a blog with the photo or two. Next one, please. This one, and this is something what Dr. Sangam was also saying, is that we want to reach out beyond our academic networks for policy making. So this kind of blog we really welcome, because then we can actually target policymakers. In this case, you can take your science, your research, take a finding that may be important to a policymaker, you think, and with the policymaker in mind, maybe someone you work with, or maybe a line agency that you want to influence, or maybe a transnational organization, write something that will be of interest to them. For example, this first one was about local knowledge. In that part of Northeast Ireland, they're trying to work with the state agencies, but trying to make them understand that local people also have knowledge, and that's the idea. So the policymaker will understand, oh, I see, okay, this is the work you're doing. So they're talking about their work with local communities. In the second one, we were looking at Cambodia and Myanmar and food security. But again, now we're looking at people in policy who are interested in climate change and food security. So that combination, not just climate change in general, but maybe the agricultural line agency people, maybe even the FAO. So policy making and planning, you can also do blogs. It's not simple, because you want to make them interested in it, maybe even have a call for action. But those are the things we can help you. If you come to us with an idea or an outline, we can tell you, okay, this is the information that would be useful. Write it like this. Next one. So here, I'd like to pause before I go to this last part. These are, in a sense, some simple examples I gave you from the website. These are the kinds of blogs you can write. Initially, I told you how to plan for it and how to think of your audience. Maybe I should pause here and see if anybody has questions on that first part. And if not, I can go and in the last concluding section. Anybody has questions, Borika?
I don't think we have any questions in the chat, but we'll also have a Q&A afterwards.
Okay.
So maybe if anyone has questions, feel free to type your questions into the chat box and we'll get to that.
Excellent. So then in that case, I'll continue. That's right. Okay. So as I said, this was unfortunately not a writing workshop. We couldn't help you to write it, but we're able to give you guidance and tips. Two key tips to end this in my session. One, as I said, this audience. Is it a decision maker? Even a decision maker, you'll have to refine your audience. Is it a local national government official? Is it a think tank? Is it UN? Is it a financial body like a World Bank or ADB? Second audience would be advisors to decision makers. They also have influence. So these are the people who are actually not decision makers, but carry a bit of influence. They may be in touch with them, or they are former bureaucrats or former politicians who are in the circle, and you may want to reach out to them. And or maybe they are interested in your research. Third audience, of course, is scientists in academia. Scientists in academia also like blogs because not everyone has the time to read every bit of peer-reviewed literature about your research. So if you have done some research and that has been written into a blog, you can also target it for others in your peer network who would read it and say, oh, this is interesting, let me go read the actual paper which they have produced, or let me get in touch with them and collaborate. So scientists in academia can also be your target audience. The fourth one is something that we in Summernet also target is opinion formers. These are news editors and columnists. We try to, and that Varya and Ong will talk to you when they talk about sharing. When you write a blog, you can think of, okay, maybe I want to target this famous columnist in the Bangkok Post. She will like my article for sure. And then after I'm writing it, we share it directly with them too. And that helps because then many columnists, maybe TV personalities, they actually are also influential in their circles. They also have, many of them are very progressive. They are also interested in environmental issues. They're only interested in research, but they don't have time. So, a 500-word blog that reaches them, tells them about something that's of relevance to them or interest to them, that will help your work reach out to a broader audience. Then, of course, there is NGOs, social movements, civil society, especially if you're writing about on-the-field issues. If you want to highlight certain concerns from local community, maybe local community needs something that a civil society can help with, you can also target them. And then last, of course, is local community groups themselves. They can also be your target because they would be interested in, you have a value because you are aware of a lot of information that they may not be. So if there is something that is to do with, say, for example, an irrigation project that is coming up that will have transboundary impacts, and you've written a blog, you can write it with them in mind, saying, okay, this reservoir will affect these 3 districts, and then write the blog with them as an audience, and they will take it up and they will be interested in it. So the specific audience, and we cannot emphasize this enough, and this is why I'm telling you again, is very important. Who's your reader? Think about it, and then your article will also be shaped better by that. Second, next slide, please. Now, framing. Framing is something that we do a lot of in the actual write shops. We ask people to take up a topic and do a framing exercise. As I said, we don't have time, or online is difficult. But framing is what we do with every story we write, or when we read as well. What is framing? Framing is basically the picture that is on the left side, where the text says, keep the reader in mind. Framing is that black border. When you do a story, you're focusing on some things and removing the other thing. And that's what's called framing. And that's very important because you cannot write a blog with 18 different topics or themes and quotes and so on. You have to figure out, you have to think, reflect, and say, okay, this is what is most important for this blog now, let me write that. And when you do that, immediately you've done a box. And that is called framing. And that framing, of course, depends on the audience. It also depends on the information you have. And then you mix it, and then you think, okay, this is how I want to do framing. Now, this framing can occur before, during, and after writing. Don't think it's only before. You may think, okay, I've got this box now, I'm going to write. While you're writing, the framing can change. You're writing something and you think, oh my God, this is actually is not as relevant now. I should do the other one, or I should mix those two ideas. Can also change after, because when we write, we have to edit. Usually give it to someone to edit, but you can also do a first few drafts. Nobody writes a perfect draft the very first time in a computer or in or however they write. It goes through several drafts. For me, for example, I spent 2 or 3 days rewriting and writing and revising a draft. And during that time, the framing can also change. And how does it change? You ask yourself questions because you also reflect on what you write. You don't just write like a machine, right? You're also reflecting on something and saying, okay, I'm writing this paragraph followed by this paragraph. Is this good enough? Maybe not. Maybe I should add something else. Then sometimes the framing may change, which is okay. That process is important to figure out a nice, good blog. Because without that process, you don't know. And that process helps you to think about your brain to organize itself and then, kind of digest all the information you have, and then you can have a draft. So framing is how you make a blog matter. And the second thing we want to say is framing also is impacted by different values. Are you a young person? Are you a young female person? Are you a young female indigenous person? It can be impacted by experiences. Are you a migrant worker? Are you a person who's just visited the community for 2 days and gone back? That would be a different experience to someone who's been there for 3 years doing an anthropological study and does a blog on a similar topic. Interests will also vary. 2 of you can go in there. I may be interested in what the community has done with their knowledge. You may be interested in what has the state government done, or what has the local government official done. 2 different ways, but we are in the same field of study, field site, the same community. So our interests are different. So your framing will also be different. So do not worry about, should I have a different interest? It's okay. If you have a different interest, it's okay. It's your interest, your experience, and your values. And this is what I said in the very first slide. Blogs are also personal. So think of what you can contribute, your expertise, your experience, and then actually your blog will stand out more because people will know, she is writing it from her values and her experience. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to end with this. This is a homework we're going to give you. You don't have to, this is not going to be able to be done now, but I would like you to take this story of dams and droughts, data and diplomacy in the Mekong. I chose this because it's very topical and relevant to the Mekong region now. It's all there, the dams and the droughts, the data sharing and transboundary governance. Take that article. First, think about what is the key point. Now, the reason we give you this homework is because for writing to succeed, you also need to be able to be good at reading. And actually, we have me and another colleague do a course in Chulalongkorn called critical reading. When you read, you can read for information and go on, but you also have to read maybe a second time. What exactly is this author trying to say? So key point or opinion given by the writer. Then reflect about your experience or your interest. What is your experience that makes this piece interesting? Why are you interested in this? Third, look for the arguments that the author has given. What are these arguments, or one argument or 3 that this author is saying? And then reflect. If I had written a piece like that about dams and data sharing, how would I have framed it? What would matter to me, And that's how you get better at reading. And the more better you get at critical reading by examining things that people write, you will get better at writing as well. So please do this homework at your own convenience at home on a weekend or whenever you're free. And it doesn't have to be this piece, but we just thought of this piece because it's topical. Take any piece from any of your any blog, recent blog. It can be CNN, it can be BBC, it can be some journalist friend who wrote it. And think of these 4 things. Key point, your own experience, how it matters, arguments that they use, and if you wrote a piece, how would you do it? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so with that, I will wrap up my guidance and tips on writing blogs. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. I think we have one question from Pum Tui. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Yeah, do you want to go ahead and ask Rajesh directly?
Yeah, I also want to appear to say thank you to the team for organizing this very nice workshop for young writers. And thanks Mr. Rajesh Daniel, who just presented us with some important guidelines and very basic for beginner writer like me, who doesn't know like how to start or how to develop the topic, the academic topic. And I have a questions, like, because I don't have any background as a scientist or any expert in this like scientific area. So I would like to ask, how can I write and still make it sounds like professionals, and especially if my target audience is the scientists, for example. How can I make the reader trust that I have knowledge on the field and bring them some useful information?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent question, but I'm very happy that you have a target audience, and that was very important to start with. So you have a target audience, you want to write a blog that is based on scientific reporting, scientific research. So, so a couple of things we can advise you. Usually, and as I said in the first, think of the topic you want to write about, whatever the topic it may be. Think about it. And as I said, how does it relate to you? Because obviously, you would not be able to write about something that you're not keen on or interested in. You cannot just write about everything. You will find that most good writers love the issues and topics that they work on. They do not write about everything on earth. It is possible, but the writing would suffer. So our advice is, think of the topic that you find interesting, that you find you have something like likelihood for, or think of something that you're working on already in part of your research. You said you are already working on some scientific project. So think of that project. And then the writing will be easy, because then you realize, oh, I actually know all this. I have some knowledge of this. I'm not starting from scratch. I can find out more. When I have questions, I can ask, I can do a Q&A, like I said, because when we think of blogs, we shouldn't think only, oh, what can I write? I can also ask. I can write in order to find out also. So if you're saying that, how can I write about a topic if I don't know it? Go the other way. Find the person who knows about that topic and ask them what you want to know. Tell Professor Sangam, so you're working with AIT on floods, and that's a topic I like to know, but I don't know much about. Can I have a Q&A with you on this? And I'm working on this, you're working on that. That's possible too. So our advice for young writers is to not think, oh my God, I don't know about this topic. You know enough to start a conversation. You know enough to do a Q&A, and you know enough to do a homework on it, right? So feel empowered about that. And then, no, it's like steps, right? You cannot say, oh, I cannot do a building, but you have some sand, some concrete, so you can start little by little.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very nice answer. It's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikangi Kenneth.
Yes, I see. I also see a raised hand. Please go ahead.
Kenneth.
Thank you very much. I am a medical student at Makerere University in East Africa. I am so grateful for the opportunity to share with us this very informative session. My question goes to Daniel. I'm a scientist and I have an interest in research. However, I have noted that some of this information is locked up in the science world and is not accessible to people. So as I'm writing, how can I have a target audience, how can I best describe the information in a way that it is simple, reliable, and it gives confidence to the reader that the person writing is a scientist, but I have, okay, how can I balance between the medical jargon and then make the information very simple, on point, and for the target audience, let me say, a given NGO that is solving a problem in public health, that has an interest in public health, interest in pollution, how can I have that balance and strike it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm glad you also have a target audience. You have an NGO interested in public health. So you already know what they would like to know. You also have a topic of interest, which is related to public health. And the issue here is partly, I understand, jargon. For this, we usually have very simple advice. We do 2 columns. One column, you write all the jargon that you have, that you're familiar with. The other part of the column, for each jargon, you try to think, if you were describing this to a friend or your parent or your brother, how would you describe it? And then write that. It can be 2 lines, it can be 3 lines, doesn't matter. But this process we encourage because then it helps you get out of that world of jargon and think, oh, how would a normal person who doesn't understand this, how will I make them understand it? So try that exercise and see how it works. And it usually helps because then your brain starts to think a little differently from what you're always used to. Here you're trying to go from the comfort zone of jargon to how somebody else is thinking about it. And then the last advice I would give you is to reach an audience like an NGO on public health. Some homework is needed. You need to find out at present what they're working on, or you can contact them and say, oh, I'm doing this research, is that of relevance to you? Because most NGOs are very open to being contacted because they want to help. That is their mission in life as well, the non-profits. You can find out if they have information that can help you. So that kind of homework needs to be done. So when you write a blog is actually the end product. You have to do all of this. In your case, de-jargon yourself, your brain, contact the NGO, do some homework, figure out, since you have a target audience, figure out what they would like, and then do a little draft outline. And then think of, okay, with this outline, first paragraph, I must write about this public health issue that is of concern to this NGO, they told me, when you write that. And then slowly it will develop. So it is a process, and we encourage people to go through the process because it actually helps you then to become familiar with your field as well. I hope that's useful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rajesh. And I think if there are more questions, you can write them in the comments, guys, and then we can tackle them later. And I think now we can move on to our next trainer, who is Onkam Wu. He is a Summernet fellow, and he has a background in development and communications work in Myanmar. He will be presenting about tips for publishing a blog. So please go ahead. Cannot hear, I think.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfect, yes.
Yes.
So first of all, I would like to say I won't be training anyone. So I would like to just share my experience and some of my tips and knowledge for the website, how to operate and upload on the website. So just a moment, I would like to share my screen. So can you see my screen now? Not yet, I think.
No, not yet.
Okay, just a moment. Okay, what about now?
Yes, now yes.
Okay, so before me, my colleague Rajesh talk about the how to write the blogs and tips about choosing the target audience and how to frame it. It's very useful to write on the blog. So I would like to share my experience about how to tips about how to publish the blog and just a little bit of layout about our Summernet website. So for Summernet, we have a website to share information about ourselves and to disseminate the works we have been doing. So in our website, we have the description about what is Summernet, and we also have description about our vision and our focus area of work we have been implementing in the Mekong region, like Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand, and etc. So we also showcase our story, blogs, articles, and videos. We also have now updates for our Summernet networks and partner. We also have section for news and announcement. I will explain further. I will describe further in the later slides. And we also have further detailed information about the projects we have been doing in the region. And we also have section for publication strategies and tools we have been using in our everyday work. And for the next slide, in this section, we have, this is a story section. So in this section, we can see many blogs, articles, and story written by ourselves, our colleagues from the Summernet Secretariat, based on the event reflection or based on the works we have currently been doing, based on the research we have done, and also we have seen the blogs and articles written by our colleague, our partners organization, and our partner institute based on their research findings and their project outcome in their region and so on. So in this another section, we can see so many news, updates, and announcements. For example, we can see the proposal call and funding opportunities and grants. And we can also make updates about our annually meetings and other announcement for something like this webinar or trainings or other opportunities as well. And for this section, we have a Summernet publication. So as you can see, we publish publication document from our Summernet. Also, and we have published publication from our partner institutes and university. And we also have multiple tools, strategy, and guidelines, which we have been using in everyday work that we have been doing. For example, as you can see here, we have a document for human rights-based approach checklist, ethics guideline, communication strategy, environmental policy. So there's a multiple strategies and tools that cover most of our working aspects. So next slide, I would like to share about tips and things to consider when you are going to upload something on the website. So first, obviously, is a title. You should have a proper relevant title for your blog, article, and story. It shouldn't be too long or too short. It shouldn't be so complicated. It should be concise and simple and easier to understand what it is going to explain or talk. Another thing is a short description or introduction. So it's going to briefly introduce about what's people going to have to read in the next paragraph. And we have a body text, and there's going to be the main body of the text, but you can also include the supporting infographic, graph, or charts as well in the body text. And you can add a relevant photo to the story to cover the topic of the whole story. But the important thing to consider is the quality of the photo. It shouldn't be low resolution. It should be according with the website requirement of quality and the ratio. Sometimes we have to readjust the size and ratio of the photo to be in accordance with the website, or otherwise it will be showing weirdly in the website. And do not forget to mention about the copyrights and credit of the original photographer for the photos. And we should, for the blogs, articles, and publication, we always have to mention about the authors. So there could be multiple authors and co-authors in the blogs and publication. So don't forget to mention about them. And for country, it meaning if the blog or article or publication is written based on the research which has been done in the specific country, for example, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, or Myanmar, it's like we have to mention the origin of the data or information received for this blog, article, and publication. And for announcement, like application for grants, proposal, and funding, there should be the not very much detailed information described in the body text, but there should be a link, or there should be link to follow up for the more detailed information, and the deadline of the application should be mentioned very clearly, or to make it better visible. And for the another thing is we should mention about what is the blog topic or article is about, and text line. For example, if you are talking about the blog which is about research on gender relation in water management of your area, you should say something like the text should be research / gender / water management. So if you can put these tags on the search bar, you can easily find any topics or any article, any stories related to the subject. So it's easier for the user to find the relevant topics, and they can continue to carry on read more about the topic. And for publication, we should mention about the year which this document has been produced, and also mention about the producer of the document, like is having produced by which academia or which institute. So we can know the ownership, and we can follow up easily if anything is needed to further information. And we can add the link to the related publication, as I mentioned before, if there's any, so they can find the connection and relativity of one document to another. And obviously, I think there's a typo and already mentioned, and we should not forget the download link for the publication, so they can read further and more detail in the document, not on the website. So that's just for my side. Thank you so much for your attention. And as we previously mentioned, if you want to write a blog or share your research document, publication, and your strategies on our Summernet website, please don't be hesitate to contact us. Please contact us anytime, and we will very willing to help you. Thank you. Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much, all. Go ahead.
By the way, I have a question.
Yes, yes, please.
As you mentioned that we can publish a blog on your website, because I'm also thinking that we are from eCraft, and we may have a topic related to projects that also sponsored by Sweden fund. So I think it's maybe related to your network. So I think possibly I would just ask that I would send over for you to review the blog if I write on the topic later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please send email to me and Rajat for further collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question again. If does anyone else have any other questions? If not yet, then I might move on to our last trainer for today. Kunvaria Plangwatana. She's a communications assistant with the Summernet Secretariat. She provides communication support for the program and has experience in multimedia and social media. Today, she will be presenting about tips for sharing a blog on social media. Please go ahead, Varia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I have my presentation, please?
Yes, just a moment.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm using with two screen and it's a little bit complicated. Just a moment, sorry.
Okay,
okay.
maybe I can share as well, maybe. Let me see. Does it work?
Okay, yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so thanks for Boripat for the introduction, and thanks Rajesh and Ong for sharing the presentation about how to write a blog and how to publish a blog. So it's come to the last part of the training today. I would like to share you some tips for sharing a blog on social media. Next slide, please. So before we dive into the main topic, I would like to talk about the agenda first. So I will begin with why we use social media, and then I will give you some basic steps to get your social media started. And then I will share you some tips for sharing a blog on social media. And of course, I will show you some examples so you can get a better idea of the thing that I have presented. And for the last part, I will conclude everything. So next slide, please. Okay, according to the Summernet communication strategy, website is a strong platform for enhanced network visibility and digital presence with links to social media channel. So currently we have two main channels, which are Facebook page and Twitter accounts. And the purpose of social media is to engage with our audiences, promote our work, and connect with others who work in the same fields. And actually, we consider Summernet Facebook page as a network or community group where we share our blogs and events most of the time, while we take Twitter as a tool to link up with the network network partner, policymaker, media, and the public. And moreover, we can also share external content which are related with our work scope by posting or retweeting. And in Summernet communication team, we share tasks as Ong Eden, admin for Summernet Facebook page, and I'm an admin for Summernet Twitter. And apart from that, I'm also an admin for SEI Asia social media channel with our Facebook group and Twitter as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so to get your social media started, I have some 3 basic steps for you. So first of all is social media strategy. So I think before we talk about sharing a blog, it's very necessary to plan how you will use social media channels and which channel is appropriate for your organization and work in line with your strategy. Moreover, planning will help you maximize the interaction with your audiences as well. And the second thing is the schedule post. So once you decide on the channel that you would go for, you can look for a tool to help you on sharing content consistently. And when you have a schedule on hand, you can see the whole picture of how the contents will go in the same direction. And also, please be reminded to vary content. So I would suggest that in one day, you can post like 2 blogs and 1 external content a day so that your follower don't need to read 5 academic blogs a day. And for the schedule tool, I would like to suggest to use the buffer and Hootsuite. And the last step is consistency of format. When it comes to formatting, it might be hard for the start. So I would suggest that when you introducing a blog, you can begin with using the simple verb such as you can say like this piece shares, this piece discard, or this blog explain about something whatever, and you might need to stick with the format but still play around it to make contents more interesting and to keep your format have consistency. It will reflect your organization in a good way, and it can build your organization credibility as well. Next slide, please. So based on my experiences of being an admin for both Summernet and SEI Asia, I would like to share 4 tips with you. So first thing is about the details. So to share the blog full of academic jargon, you need to make sure that you know the gist and catch keywords so that you can make it as a few sentences in your own word. And then your follower will understand it easily. And it's very important to read through the blog to get a better idea that the author wants to convey. But however, when it comes to the blog or the topic that might be hard to understand, you can rephrase or take the introduction or the conclusion part, but you can make it catchy by raising a question as a last sentence. And apart from that, for the specific term, always give a brief definition and avoid using abbreviation that's aren't widely used. Cause it always happen that in some piece there will be an abbreviation that a researcher team just create that for only for that piece. So if you add it when you post something on the Twitter or Facebook, the external people don't know about it, so it is better to use the abbreviation, which is like everyone know. And apart from that, for event blog, the date and time is very important, and it will attract the audience more if the tweet or the post come with the event poster or quote card. And the second is about the time. As I mentioned earlier about scheduling posts, time slot will help on selecting contents. For the new blogs, I would suggest that morning time is the best since people still have time to check their social media before working, or you can post it on the midday as well while people are off from work for having lunch and they have some time to update the feed. But in the evening, you can post light contents, which is easy to digest as your audiences or your follower might want to read something more interesting rather than the serious one. So to sum this up, I would like to suggest that you can post 3 to 4 tweets maximum for a day, while for Facebook group or page, I would say 2 posts are enough. But however, this number is not fixed and it can be flexible depending on your plan. And the third tip is about the hashtag. Sometimes people search the hashtag to get the information about what they want to know. Hashtags are more like the summary of each topic, and you can read tons of tweets endlessly and might end up getting broader information. You can put the hashtag on the keyword of each blog, and the most common thing to put the hashtag on is the topic, such as water insecurity, water governance, or Mekong River, something like that. And after that, you can select 2 other keywords that you need to highlight. But just a reminder that please avoid putting many hashtags per one tweet or post. Let's say 3 to 4 hashtags should do. And for the hashtag, I would suggest you put the hashtag and focus on the Twitter rather than Facebook. And the last tip is about the engagement. So as I mentioned in the background part, that we all use social media to make connection with others, and it's easier to interact with people even you don't know them. So for Twitter, you can have instant conversation and discuss with experts in many fields. And when it's come to partner or audiences, you can gain more interaction with followers by making a poll or creating tweet campaigns. So they feel like they can participate and they can be a concrete part of your network. And don't forget to tag partner when sharing blogs that you think they can relate, or in case there is cooperation in those pieces, such as like co-author. So next slide, please. And then we have come to the example. So for the first example, I would like to show you the differences between Facebook and Twitter. So on the left side is the Facebook post, and on the right side is the tweet one. So for Facebook, you can see that we can have longer text than Twitter, and it's more like a summary, but you can tagging the name or adding the name on the post as well. While in the Twitter, you have text limit, which currently right now is around 280 characters. So it's make Twitter more like just brief information. You can focus more on the keyword, but you can still tagging name, quote tweet, and create tweet campaign. For tweet campaign, I would like to give just a short description about it. So tweet campaign is like a set of tweets that you can group it by put hashtag in a word group. And we mostly create the campaign on the key date, such as in March, there will be a International Women's Day. So you can think about the tweet campaign to gain interaction from your follower as well. Next slide, please. So for this slide, I would like to show the example of to rephrase or take the introduction or the conclusion when sharing blog. So you can see that on the right side, I have cut unnecessary part because I need to consider about the text limits. And you can see that for the and I use the symbol instead of the full word to save the space for other words. And I would like to say that when it comes to sharing a blog, you can use the catchy word as the last sentence as well, such as have a read more, find out more, or find out why, so that it makes people want to read your blogs. Next slide, please. And the last example, I just want to show you about the event blogs. So you can see that Summernet always tweet or post the event blog with the poster because it can gain more interest from our audiences. And if the events poster already got important detail yet that you need to highlight, for example, it's already got like the date and the time, you can leave it on the text part, but you can still highlight about the registration part. And don't forget to use the word like join us or register now. And it's just a small tip from me that QR codes is increasingly popular these days, since it's easier for people to just scan and finish the registration on their mobile. So I just want you to just keep thinking about it when it comes to the event blog. Next slide, please. So all in all, social media is a good place to promote your expertise, your work, and link with other experts, find potential funders, and learn about the current issue. No matter position that you are working right now, it can be academia research, policy maker, private sector staff, or civil society or NGO staff. We encourage you to take the social media as a tool to share your opinion and learn from other point of view, and also connect with them to see what you can do together to raise awareness among the public. And last but not least, I just want to remind about our social media channel right now. So for the Facebook page, we have Sustainable Macro Research Network, and we also have Summernet Youth Network as a Facebook group. So you can feel free to be a part of us. And next slide, please. And also we have Summernet Twitter. So please feel free to follow us for more blogs and more events that will come along. And if you have any question about my presentation or after this webinar, you can contact me by my email. Also, you can connect with me on my Twitter as well. And I would like to thank you very much for your kind attention today. And I hope I can answer your question during the Q&A session. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. I have some questions, but maybe I will wait and open up the floor to the Q&A for all the participants. And I would like to thank all of the presenters because it was very interesting insights. So please, if anyone has any question, you can just type it in the chat box, or you can go ahead and raise your hand and just ask directly.
I have a question, Sophia.
Go ahead.
If I can go first. So my question is for the communication team. I'm wondering, because Summernet for All is on the topic, the theme is water insecurity. So I would imagine that there are some topics or issues related to water insecurity that might be considered as a sensitive issue. So I'm wondering, from the perspective of the communication experts, what do you do and how do you deal with these things when you encounter sensitive issues? How do you report it? How do you republish it? How do you decide to write it? How do you decide to publish it? And also, how do you decide to share it if it's a somewhat of a hot and sensitive topic?
Yeah, I can answer that. Excellent question, Boripat. Actually, most issues right now in this part of the world are sensitive, given the diplomatically put kind of governance systems now in place. So we do have to be careful. At the same time, while we raise awareness of issues, we also have partners in many levels of government, many levels of policy making that we have to be aware of. We don't want to endanger them. Sometimes they may even give us information that we can use. So the first thing we do is, of course, get advice from our peers. Our own Summernet program director, Chinese, is the first person we go to. And if it's something that relates to a particular country, we ask the SC, because we have something called a steering committee with representation from different countries, very senior people, very well-known people, and many of them influential in policy as well. So we ask their advice. We can either go with a redrafted version of something and then issue it, or they may say, hold on for it, let me check. Or they may say, let us not do it for now, we can do it later. So we usually act on that advice because we are part of the network. We are not a comms team that just is like journalists, we can do whatever we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Go ahead, Sophia.
Okay, I guess I will just jump in because I'm very curious. I would like to ask Maria in particular, because you gave us a lot of tips on Facebook and Twitter mainly. And I've seen that there is like a trend of some younger researchers that are trying to use Instagram as well to communicate their research and share it on Instagram. So I was wondering if you see this trend emerging, and what do you think are the tips when we try to communicate research on Instagram, so in a more visual way, I guess.
Thanks, Sophia, for the question. So when it comes to Instagram, and I think is currently is not that popular channel when it comes to the academic stuff, but I think this day Instagram have like a short video that called Reel that is getting popular because it's something similar to the TikTok platform. So and they also have IG story, which is quite popular as well. So I think if you want to share like your work on the Instagram, I think you can also do that, but make it interested by posting on your Instagram story or make it as a reel. Cause it reel, it just like you can make it like 15 to 30 seconds, but it still can attract your follower or audience who has the same interest as you. But that is a very good question, and I think I will try to learn more about it, just in case that if in the future we might have or we want to expand our channel to Instagram as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I just have a follow-up question to Ong, maybe. Ong, I was wondering, because you deal with the Summernet website a bit. I was just wondering, have you noticed what kind of topics in the Summernet website gets the most engagement and interest?
Well, I have done the monthly analysis for the website. So there's most of the trends are about the announcement. For example, call for grants, proposal, and fellowship opportunities. These kind of topics are get the most interest. And another thing is about our publication. So in this sections of publication, there's a topic like ethic guidelines and other strategies like human right based approach. They got pretty attention, even though they have been uploaded for quite some time. They still get traffic and got view regularly from our partners. So I think I would like to highlight these two. These are our top contents.
Thank you, Ong. And just another question for all three of our trainers today. What do you see as what are you interested and what do you see as kind of like the next communication platform or mode or medium moving on for the Summernet?
Varia and Ong, go ahead so that I don't talk all the time.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to follow up with Varia's answer for the Sophia questions about Instagram. So currently, I check Instagram sometimes, and I check the stories of my friends. But I think they have an advertisement system for the INGOs. Sometimes I saw the fundraising stories pop up along with my friends' story, and it's quite interesting, and it's very short and concise. There's a like 5 or 10 second stories mention about the what is it about and what is urgent and what is need to be addressed. And the next one is like duration is about 5 seconds, and it's like something like call for action to raise a fund or to donate or to get participated or to raise the awareness. So I think in the long term, in the future, people are less and less can concentrate on the traditional ways of communicating. So we have a shorter attention span. So I think the next shift where we move to platform like TikTok and Instagram Reels, where we don't have to pay much attention and we can get information faster. I think the trends of the communication and technology will shift that way rather than the controversial ways of communicating. I think that's my idea for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ong. And just to follow up to what you say and what we were discussing about sort of like future modes of communication, I just want to come back to Rajesh and ask, do you still see the role of blogs as being important for Summernet, but just for science communication also looking to the future?
Yeah. Okay. So I was waiting whether Varya was going to answer, but in relation to the previous question, I was going to say, and this relates to your question now, is that we are also moving into podcasts. Apart from, we are very good at video, but of course, video's limitation is that you have to go to the field, and COVID has become a constraint. And in the past, we started with podcasts in 2020. We have a SoundCloud platform. We did 6 episodes about Mekong and interviewed journalists and I think some researchers. This year, that is going to be a big area of expansion for us. We are also building we managed with a small podcast area. Now we're actually building a good podcast studio. So podcasts are definitely going to be big for us. And we think that will widen our reach because more people are listening to podcasts on their way to work, while they're doing something else, while they're taking a walk. So that was one. And then in relation to the second question, for us as science communicators, people who are involved in research, blogs are still going to be important because research has to be communicated in a written form at some point. You can have your TikTok videos and so on, but at some point, people are going to ask how much percentage of that, and they would like to see it, or they might see a table, or they might like to see a photograph of a person in the field where it's explaining what that person in the field has done. Those are simple examples, but in terms of also complex research topics, the more complex they are, our challenge is actually to make them understandable to what is called popular writing, which I don't like the word so much. I prefer to say non-academic audience. And for that, blogs are always going to be important. Short form, 500 words. You should be able to, even as researchers, you should be able to say what you've researched in 500 words. Most researchers do that very well with an abstract, but an abstract in a journal is still quite filled with jargon, and it's a certain appeals to a certain audience, just an academic audience. So you need to be able to say that in 500 words in a blog. So in our view, and I think also in Summernet researchers' view, many of them will. We had this discussion whether we should invest in the website, and they said yes, because they think the website and blogs and publications and a platform for written exchange is useful. But since we're also communicators and not the researchers, all of us are interested in videos, podcasts, multimedia, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and those I think will help to boost all of these other things that we do.
Thank you, Rajesh. I think we have someone raised their hand. Pamtui, sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that maybe your previous answer some part of my questions already. But before, I wanted to ask about the indicator for like a successful post on social media, on blog. Like, how do you know if you can only count on the like or the interactions or the comment only, or you would use another other's indicator to say like a post is good or not? Because with I think like sometimes there's a good content, but they get very few interactions and few likes. So how would you like utilize the platforms, and also that what you posting is good?
Varya Rome, you're the
Yeah.
media analysis experts.
So may I go first? So actually, so when we want to know if like our tweet or our post work well or not, we also consider about the an analytic report. And I think this helps us a lot to know like which content that is always popular on our social media channel. And it's turned out that the events, or when it's come to the opportunity, when we let's say about a grant, is always popular, that we get like more retweet. So I think we need to still focus on that, But apart from that, we can also think about maybe the webinar or the event as well, so that we can like share our work in the meeting, and we can like talk more about that too, apart from the social media channel. Yeah.
And we also have these website analytics that Ong mentioned. We have we do the analytics for our website every 2 months with the Google Analytics, and it tells us which article had the most likes and engagement. It also, we can go down and track which country. You can also do by age group. So we have that information, which then we can know. But for example, for now, since we are more of a partnership network-based website, the highest is of course calls and proposals and so on. But the next is also the blogs that are talking about research. So we know that, and we also know that our readership is actually, and this matters for you guys as well, you're the Young People's Network. Our readership is around 25 to 35, the website, which was surprising for us because we thought nobody reads, the young people don't read the website, but it actually appears that from 25 to 35 is the highest readership for our website. And then the next highest is 50 plus. So we actually were heartened by it because we realized that yes, the website is still useful for outreach to young people.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. That was really interesting to hear as well, that young people are reading the Summernet website. That's quite good. Yeah. So
for your answer.
Yeah. Yes. Also, thank you for your question and participation. So yeah, I think we're getting near the end of our training today. So thank you very much again to all our 3 trainers for sharing your experiences with us today. I learned a lot of interesting and useful tips about the whole blog process, and I would now like to welcome back Rajesh to give closing remarks, please. Go ahead, Rajesh.
Thanks very much, Poripat. It was an excellent initiative, I would say, by the Summernet Youth Network. We encourage you to keep going. Comms team is, of course, willing to support you in any of these initiatives. We also hope that, and I think you already have plans for more of these. We are happy to also give training on, like Ong and Varia said, on multimedia. We can give training on short videos, field videos. In the future, I'm sure we will go to the field, but we can also give training on podcasts. All of these will have to be online, so we can only give guidance and tips, not actual things, but these are also areas of comms that we can give. And also think of research writing, where you can draw on the senior researchers to maybe give you some guidance on research writing as well.
Yep, Sophia, I think we can say our goodbyes.
Yes, I think I would like to thank everyone, the presenters, Boripat for co-leading this initiative and pushing it forward with a lot of drive, and also the participants for all the questions in the chat and for being very proactive and participative. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you again in the future for the other trainings. Bye.
Goodbye. Have a nice afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Sophia and Boripat. Bye.